And without further ado, I would like to welcome Cheryl from ArchNexus to talk about what they're doing and her to-dos. So Cheryl, go ahead.
Thanks, Thomas, and CleanStart. Thanks for having me. Super excited to be here. This is actually my first YouTube video. I'm feeling super famous. I am excited to be here. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. My name is Cheryl McMurtry. I'm an associate with Architectural Nexus here in the Sacramento region. A lot of people ask us, what does Architectural Nexus do? And I say it's in the name. We are an architecture firm. We've been in the Sacramento Valley for over 30 years under a couple of different names. But what's really exciting is in the last couple of years, we've designed and built Sacramento, California's first living building. And so as Thomas alluded to, we're here to talk about buildings and carbon neutral, and really buildings are by far and by large one of the largest contributors to global warming and to the carbon buildup. And it's our duty as architects and engineers to try and reduce our impact through designing correctly. So my to-dos for today is really focused on talking about living building challenge. Buildings are by far and by large, ooh, I'm getting a little bit of feedback. All right, so we're going to talk about living building challenge, regenerative design, which is something that ArchNexus focuses on. We are so excited for the EPIC Challenge funding that's coming up, and so we're ramping up to put together a proposal for that funding and create some really great future case studies. And then I want to talk a little bit about a passion project of mine and a program that we have internally called Nexus Builds. So you can go to the next slide. So Architectural Nexus, we're across the street from Fox and Goose 515. This is our living building and our California headquarters. In pre-COVID times, this is where I work out of myself. It is California's first living building, and what a living building is it's a self-contained ecosystem. So our building runs off of 100% of the energy it creates from solar PV. We capture rainwater. We actually compost our human waste. We reuse our gray water. It's literally a building spaceship. It has the highest level of certifications that a building can possibly have for sustainability. And we offer tours all the time, including right now virtual tours. In the back there you can see the green wall. So we invite everyone out to come and learn and visit it. And we're hoping that through EPIC Challenge to help kind of change and create a model for a mixed use affordable housing living building as well. So we're really excited to be putting together teams and looking towards changing the model of how people live, not just work. Next slide. So like I said, we're net positive energy. So not only do we produce enough energy to run our building, but we actually SMUD writes us a check. So we put more back onto the grid. And we do this both with technology. Solar power is not necessarily the most innovative thing anymore. It's becoming pretty mainstream. Everyone should have PV on their roof at this point. But what's interesting is, and it really made a very easy transition to the new normal with COVID, was our workstations was a huge energy suck. All workstations and computers are a huge energy suck. So what we actually did was we went to a cloud-based system using a Citrix and a minor desktop system, and it has 1/5 of the typical workstation that normal workstations have, and it reduced our plug loads and our energy an incredible amount. But what was wonderful about it was when this all happened, it was so easy to go virtual, because everyone's actual work product was in the cloud and they can log on from anywhere. So we were really, we went virtual the start of March, and it's been smooth and reasonably easy and surprisingly more collaborative. I think as everyone's kind of dealing with this new reality, we're all trying to reach out to each other more, like with these to-dos and other things. We're also net positive water, so we capture rainwater. We actually capture more water than we use. We don't actually use rainwater for our potable water, even though the building is designed and has the technology to do so, mostly because of current regulations. However, we had to prove for our certification that we captured enough rainwater to provide for the potable water use. We've had our potable water tested. It's actually very, very safe. We reuse our gray water in our toilets, and then the living green wall. And then our black water is treated on site, composting toilets and composting toilet system. And it is then actually produces compost that is given to a non-food producing agricultural resource. So that's just a little bit about our building in Sacramento, but you can go to the next slide. We want to create more. So, I mean, we do a lot of ArchNexus, there's a lot of community buildings. These are, this is under construction in Stockton. It's a new library. It's going to be a LEED Gold building. You can, the next slide. You know, this one is Daybreak Library. Hopefully going to be a zero net energy project. But what's interesting, and we talk about regenerative design, it's not, sustainability is not enough anymore. It's our mission, our goal, the projects that make us excited are really about projects that try to restore the site and the world around us, rewild the world, bring back not just a groomed sort of nature, but a sense of what was there before. And you see projects all over the place where nature's kind of taking it back, or they're reconstructing highways or rail lines or other hardscapes with these beautiful community parks. A great example is what's happening in San Francisco over by the new transit station, and it's just a beautiful space to be. And that's sort of, you know, that's what we get excited about. You can go to the next slide. So it's not just libraries that we design. We also, you know, mixed use. We're extremely excited about the Epic Challenge. You can go to the next slide. But it's everything from small to large. This is over 1 million square feet of cancer hospital research, Huntsman, that we've done. So we do a little bit of everything. I like to say that we're community architects. We do schools. We really like those sorts of projects. And as I say that we're gearing up for Epic Challenge, if you don't know that much about it, I mean, it literally wants to disrupt what the model is. It's trying to tackle carbon neutral design. It's trying to tackle equity. It's trying to tackle affordability and create a case study of a mixed use affordable housing project that can be repeated, that challenges what we know today in terms of housing. And as architects and designers wanting to regenerate the world around us, we are so excited to participate and apply for the grant. And we will be looking out towards technology partners because I think that's a huge component of it. How can we push the industry forward, the building industry, but also do so in a productive, sustainable way, using healthy building materials, using carbon neutral processes in terms of manufacturing. It's not just about the end product, it's about the entire life cycle of a product and a building product. That has a huge impact as well. And I'm looking forward to hopefully talking with all of you more about those concepts. And then next one. Finally, I want to talk about one of my passions is Nexus Builds. I'm gonna show a short video in a second, but Nexus Builds is a learning and philanthropy program within our company. Our president sat down and goes, you know, what should we do to help us be better? And as architects, I mean, we spend a lot of time studying and spend a lot of time designing, but we don't always get the chance to build. And the chance to build is such an incredible time to learn. And so we created a program that combines building opportunities for our, well, for all of us, but mainly for our staff and our younger architects to help them really understand how to put a set of drawings together because they hit a hammer against a nail and they really understood how a detail works, but also to give back to our community. So Nexus Builds is a program where we build tiny homes, not only tiny homes, but living tiny homes, living building challenge compliant tiny homes. So self-contained tiny homes that operate off of captured rainwater and manage its waste production and operate off of solar power. It's built by our wonderfully passionate, unskilled labor force. And then it is actually a product for a variety of organizations. The first one that we completed last year, we did in conjunction with Block Project out of Seattle. Block Project is a nonprofit that builds tiny homes to be placed in host family backyards for people experiencing homelessness. And so we built it in Salt Lake, Utah, which is where our other office is. And everyone participated. So Sacramento went out there and helped build the house, and then we trucked it all the way to Seattle. It's the first living building challenge compliant tiny home. And then this year we got to design our own, and that's currently under construction. So you can go to the next slide and we'll show a short video.
The Block Project is contagious because it's all about kindness, and kindness is contagious. It hasn't just been about building homes, it's been about building communities. We are just absolutely floored every single time someone says they want a block home in their backyard. They want to invite someone that's currently living on the street into their personal space, into their hearts.
I did everything behind a keyboard, and all of a sudden I was leading volunteers with table saws and tools to build a block home. And it was a hard learning curve.
When we were spread thin, when I couldn't have imagined a better time, we got a call from Salt Lake City.
So we call, and I think there's several minutes of what is going on.
You're gonna build a home and truck it up to Seattle? No way.
By the time it registered, that first conversation, Jen was in tears.
I got so moved because even if it didn't happen, it was still you guys from over 1,000 miles away saying, we want to help, we see what you're doing, and we want to be there for you.
Not only are we people-driven, we're people-driven in pursuit of meaningful experience. Mastery is part of that. If you think about the phrase meaningful experience as a noun, tied up in that is quality and sophistication and understanding, and really all that boils down to mastery.
I think there's a lot of art in construction, and that was the thing that scared me the most, and probably because of that, it's the thing that I learned the most from.
You know, sometimes when you start something, you realize, oh, this is going to be hard.
There was some wailing and gnashing of teeth out there. It was rough. It was hard to do.
Interior wood panels and getting those to line up.
Don't slap on a metal panel before you actually measure it, because it's really hard to take off.
Measure twice, cut once. Build days could be fun.
I think it was really fun.
They could be crappy.
Installing the composting toilet.
They can be cold, they can be super hot.
It was hot and itchy.
Stuff still got to get done. Deadlines still have to get met. Stuff has to get built.
My community's growing, not just for the block project, but for me. I'm making connections with people that I otherwise never would, and it feels like an extension of family, to be honest.
I grew a lot from Nexus Builds, just solving it, accomplishing it, sometimes crying over it.
Blood, sweat, tears, hopefully not pain, suffering, hopefully not too many tears.
Really, when you work with somebody like that, you start to understand a little bit about how they think and how they react to stress, and that's when you really get to know people.
I think there just comes a sense of camaraderie.
Camaraderie.
There isn't much better way to get to know somebody than sharing a disposable jumpsuit, so that was fun.
When you're done and you see the fruits of what you accomplished, you know, it's satisfying.
We got a phone call from them that said, hey, we'd heard that you'd been interested in being a host home. And it was really kind of this perfect timing where we felt settled and I felt like we could do that.
I think arriving on the truck wrapped up was like, this is something that it's a life-changing moment. Like, it's going to be like a memory that we'll always have. Like, our boys will have this memory to remember. Like, when I was little, the tiny house came to us on a truck and the biggest crane I've ever seen lifted it over.
That moment and that sound of when it first got lifted off the truck, it just sort of made your heart stop.
11,000 pounds was being hoisted through the air over people and people's houses, being held by a few nuts on some long threaded rods. It was an exciting moment, and it was a scary moment.
It was pretty remarkable. I mean, here it is, like, oh, I helped build that. You know, we strapped that down, and that was us, and it's not falling, it's succeeding. It was kind of gut-wrenching and awe-inspiring and humbling all at the same time.
Seeing it set is just kind of like, it feels like home. Like, we've seen a lot of drawings and renders, and on the truck it was like, wow, big, but now it's like, it fits. This is meant to be here, and I'm excited for it.
Our whole mission at Nexus, we're people-driven. It's about people. You know, we could just say that this was a house for the homeless, but it's much more than that. It's a home for a person. And I think the craft and the care that went into that, we could have just said, I'll just hurry and get it done. We got this deadline, just who cares, just cover it up. But I think I saw, at least in a lot of other people, as they, you know, spent a lot of time like doing it right, like making it right. Like, this was not just a reflection of us and our craft, but this is for somebody to live in and to make them a better person.
It was also really cool to park in the upper parking lot and walk into work each day and pass by it and see people out there working all the time thinking, yeah, these are my people. This is what we do.
This is all of us, right? Like, we're all involved in this. Whether homelessness has touched you personally or whether climate change has touched you personally, you know, isn't really the important part yet. It's that we're all connected together, and that when we all work together to solve these issues, we all feel it. We all live better for it.
This is gonna go to someone who actually really needs it. And it was like more of like a sense of pride of like, not necessarily for us necessarily as Nexus, but like as people helping each other was really cool. And I wish more people did things like that.
You know, when people are kind to each other, you know, it spreads and people can see that and their hearts are warmed.
Now, at this point, I feel like we truly say we're ready to build something that we've designed.
You can go to the next slide. So that was our first build.
The block project is contagious.
It went successfully. This is Chrysalis. This is our own design. It's you can go to the next slide. It is currently under construction. It's planned to be wrapped up in a few weeks. Hopefully, it's been extremely exciting. What's interesting about this is we started construction during the pandemic, the COVID, and we're like, how are we going to do this? I mean, people don't want to necessarily travel. People don't want to get on planes. How do we create a meaningful experience for our staff in Sacramento if this is being built in Salt Lake? And what we ended up doing is building the casework and the welding on the railings up above here in Sacramento. Actually, thanks to a partner of ours, Hacker Lab, helped us use their facilities for the welding, and the welding women of Sacramento was all female team that jumped in there and welded it. Next slide. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. That's what we're doing here. And like I said, we're doing Living Building Challenge Tiny Homes. We are very excited to ramp it up for the Epic Challenge to a affordable housing mixed use project, not just one little tiny home, but something larger.
Well, woohoo, what a great presentation and what a great thing you're doing. So thank you so much. That was awesome, and it was great to have the videos.
Thank you.
And we're open for questions now. People will have to turn their audio on if you want to ask a question, or put it in the chat.
I see some questions in the chat. I wanted to start off with one question. What technologies are you guys looking at, or areas do you think that there needs to be newer, more better technology in when it comes to buildings?
Yeah, so actually one of the companies we met at your last year's CleanStart sort of conference there, Sierra Crate, which is trying to turn forested products into insulated building material. I know that they haven't gone commercial yet, but it blew my mind because it's addressing so many issues. It's a affordable, free material. It's insulated, but really the concrete. I know they're trying to do more carbon neutral concrete, but building materials are horrible, and that's where I think we need more innovation. Is you saw in that video a lot of pink foam. It's a polyiso product. That stuff, technically is as healthy as it could be, but it's hard to find a product out there that is as insulated as that per inch, and also not toxic. I mean, they have some great products that are out there that aren't toxic, but you still don't get the R value out of it. And so it's, which is the better evil, right? Do you have a truly well insulated house and use less energy, or do you use something that's toxic? So I think that's the biggest thing I'm seeing is, everyone's tackling the energy and the water and the use of those natural resources, but I think there needs to be a lot more focus on the manufacturing of building materials.
Okay. We have some questions. A question from Wilson Hago here is resistance from cities for permitting the tiny houses. What have you experienced in there? And who does the certification on these sustainability buildings?
Yeah, so everyone's heard of LEED from USGBC, but the Living Building Challenge is from International Future Living Institute, ILFI. They do living buildings, and so that is the certification that we are doing all of these projects under. And Yes and no. Obviously, Seattle was just, King County was amazing. Not only did they, well, King County was amazing. King County actually did a virtual inspection of our tiny home in Salt Lake through FaceTime, which is now becoming more and more and more typical these days, but that was the first one that they ever did. And then the second home, the one that is photographed here, Chrysalis, is going to Pleasant Grove, and we've had no permitting issues. In fact, they're so excited about it. It's a accessory dwelling unit. They have it written into their code to allow it, but they're also very excited about some of the innovative things that we're trying to do with gray water and rainwater. We're getting a little bit of pushback on some of the water reuse issues, and that's typical, but what's nice about it is it's been a conversation about changing in regulations. More so than just say, you can't do this. There are things that we're not able to do, but every time we approach another city with one of these projects, including our own office, it opens up another line of communications. It brings people together, and we start saying, well, what if? How do we tackle some of these issues?
I think that's a really good thing to kind of highlight there, is that you guys have also played, I guess, a role as an advocate for sustainable buildings and zero carbon footprint, and the fact that cities have a lot of codes that don't necessarily allow for those, but all the cities have been open or desiring to change them to allow for it. Mark, you have your hand up there. You realize your camera's pointing at your chest. There you go.
Hi. All right. Thank you, Thomas. So first thing is ultra high performance concrete. I know the startup in Texas that is doing that has the North American distribution rights for the best ultra high performance concrete in the world. And Doug, who runs that, also is into microbeads with very high insulative value that can be poured into cavities. He's working on 3D printing the ultra high performance concrete with a company up in Chicago right now, and can pour in microbeads into a cavity that's created in the concrete. The thing about this stuff is that where regular concrete is 5,000 psi, this stuff starts in the 20,000 psi range and goes up to 186,000 psi. In a lab test of some extra stuff. Looking at being able to 3D print it. Now, and he's an architect and landscape architect, and so he's working on a range of houses that can be built with it. And another guy, Ron Powers, who designed most of the motorhome factories, is also designing a line of homes, and that's using phenolic honeycomb or another technology he has that's also insulates well and is lightweight. And both of these would be low-cost, high-quality solutions. And I'll be getting, as we get farther along in designs and things, I'm going to be sharing them.
So what would be the best way for someone to reach out to ArchNexus there? So as he gets further along, what's the best way for him to reach out to ArchNexus, Cheryl?
Well, definitely through me. I'm, passionate about this and happy to connect it in. We are absolutely excited about trying to disrupt the industry there, and yeah, I'm excited about all the things that Mark just said. I will put my contact information in the chat, and that's what I love about these things. It's all about networking.
Yeah, and anyone who wants to put their LinkedIn or contact information in the chat, I recommend you do it. I saw Chris Baronetta put his in there, and I sent him a request on LinkedIn. So if you want to connect with people, drop your information in the chat, and let's make sure that we all connect. I then have, I think, one last question that we're going to because we're going kind of long here, from Emilio Vargas. Besides water reuse, can you elaborate about the water management and water savings. Are there certifications related to the water management?
So the certification that we got was Living Building Challenge, and within that is net positive water, but there is a water certification under ILFI called pedal certification with an emphasis on water. You can get the water pedal. But that basically, it just tells you that you reuse all the water on site, nothing leaves the site, everything operates there. So we reuse the gray water, the black water gets turned into compost, leachate evaporates, and the rainwater is used to fuel our building.